can everyone see my screen? Yep. Cool. So session today, take off with Tabular Editor. And it's from me, Sue Bays. That's me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect. I'm an independent Power BI developer. I run my own business, so time for me is critical because that's how I bill. I like running and basically anything really. I like running, swimming, yoga. So I like to maximize the usage of time. I'm not employed by Tabular Editor. But it's a tool that I value and I use, and I've reached out to the team. So I have run my sessions through them to make sure that everything is technically correct. And that's my website if you're interested. I also run Devon and Cornwall Meetup Group, which is quite an active group. And basically, I use it as a way to get a one-to-one tutorial from different people to teach me things to keep me up to date. So it's a great way to hang out and chat around and keep up to date. So what I'm going to go through today is I'm going to go through Tabular Editor 3. I have created a session on Tabular Editor 2, which I carried out at SQL Bits, which will be online very shortly. So I will go through what it is, how much it will cost, why use it, who uses it, and how to get started. So in a nutshell, it would be good just to put hands up or little, show the reactions, just so I get an idea as to audience usage of Tabular Editor. So if you can just put a thumbs up or something using the reaction, so I can just see. So Tim's using it, a couple of you. Brilliant, lovely. Thank you, Jude. And yeah. Great, thank you. But some of you haven't. So this is designed as an introduction. So basically, there are two. There's Tabular Editor 2 and there is Tabular Editor 3. Tabular Editor 2 is a completely free model that has been created by Daniel that will be free and will stay free for everyone to use. So you can see if you get onto the docs at Tabular Editor, there's Tabular Editor 2 here and Tabular Editor 3. So Tabular Editor 2 is, as I said, it's completely free. You download both from the sites and they run on your desktop as an application. Tabular Editor 3 is a license-based piece of software, but you get the first 30 days different. Yeah, Tabular Editor is different from Tableau. So Tabular Editor allows you to edit your data model. So it can run in various formats, but it basically allows you to edit and create measures and to do scripting, etc., within your Power BI semantic model. So why would you bother to do this? Because it's quick. It saves you a lot of time and it enables you to make data models. So Tableau's visualization, Tabular Editor is all about the metadata that surrounds your data and your model. It's a big tool, so what I'm going to focus on today is how we use it with Power BI Desktop. Yes, and it's Danish. How we use it with Power BI Desktop as a local tool and an external tool. So price-wise, it's $10 a month for a user for your basic desktop, but you get 30 days for free. And if you want to get started and you haven't used it, then you can use the free Tabular Editor too. These are the type of people that might use it. Desktop analysts like myself using it as an external tool. Support engineers can actually access it through an XMLA endpoint where they can read and refresh remotely. Team or enterprise modelers can create and manage the model and actually not produce any visualizations. It's about creating the correct report. And then you can also use it to enable for source control. So again, I will be showing you how to use it as a local tool, as an external tool to your local desktop model. So what does it enable you to do? It enables you to automate tasks and enhance productivity. So we can create lots of measures all in one go. We can copy and paste measures from one report to another. We can use C# scripting so that we can run the same measures as a macro. We can get it to actually look at our data model and give us advice on best practices with regard to relationships, formatting, security issues. So it will help us create the best model possible. It's got an amazing DAX telesense and editor within it, and it will also help us with DAX debugging and DAX formatting. And then there are advanced modeling features, which I probably won't get to in this session, where we can create calculation groups, perspectives, translations, and various things that allow us to develop our model. So it's quite a back-end tool for your data modeling and your formatting. So again, as I said, I'm going to focus on the desktop and the local model, and I want to show you some of my favorite features that I've used to help me improve the speed that I work at. So let's get into the demo. And I'm just going to move my PowerPoint over to here so that I remember what it is I've got to do, because otherwise I can forget. So on here, this is a basic Power BI report. And let me just show you the model view. So it's Garmin data, but I have one date dimension table, and I have 3 fact tables, which are sitting here. There are no measures or anything on the report as yet. I've just pulled it straight in and I've got it set up. I've downloaded Tabular Editor 3, which is sat here on my desktop. When I open Tabular Editor 3, I've put the resolution up to 125 so that you should be able to see it without doing too much of zoom it, because sometimes you can go in and out quite quickly. So hopefully you can all see. When you open up Tabular Editor 3, it can be a bit daunting or Tabular Editor 2, if you aren't used to using something like this. But what we can do is we can click on this button here, which opens the model from the database. So we click here, and we've got this window that comes up, and we are going to up a local instance of our Tabular Editor, our Power BI report. Authentication isn't required because it's integrated within our report, but these are different features that you would use if you were connecting to a different source. And we can decide what type of option we want. Do we want to read only? Do we want to read and refresh? Or do we want to read and write back? And in this instance, because we're using Tabular Editor as an external tool, we're going to write back to our database, our Power BI report. So what that means is that we can actually change our Power BI report. Just have a sip of water. So when you start, you can see we have this Tom Explorer, and the Tom Explorer allows us to actually look at the metadata that is surrounding our data. By metadata, it's the things that enable our report, our semantic model, to look and behave in the way that we want it to behave. So these are all things that surround the data that we have and that we pull into our report. Because Tabular Editor is quite a large thing, I'm going to focus on the Tom Explorer and some really quick fixes that you can get your model moving from. Henrique's asked a question: can you use it as an external tool from within Power BI Desktop? Yes, you can, although because it's updated fairly frequently, I find it easier to have it here because it just means that I have the most up-to-date version. So when we start looking at our report, one of the key things that I found particularly helpful is that you can pin these different panes wherever you want them to. So if you've got 2 or 3 screens, you can actually choose, you can have your model over 2 or 3 screens, which I find particularly helpful when you're starting to, I like to see my data in a table. So when I start creating DAX measures, I can really understand, you know, are they correct? Are they right? So I can have my report. And it's not until you start using these things that you realize that you miss it within Power BI Desktop. So if we have a look at our metadata here, and you can, so if we click on the window, you can set out your window to look however you want it to look for whatever function you're creating within Tabular Editor. So there's nothing in data sources because that's all coming in from our report. If we were setting up perspectives, you would be able to see it here. In our relationships, you can see we've got the different relationships that we have here. So it shows exactly the same relationships that we had before. And you can actually create, so if you click here, you can create a semantic model where you actually pull in and add these tables to your diagram. And so you can add all related tables. So it gives you an ability to create some documentation if you need to document the relationships within your report. I'm going to go quite quickly because I know it's your lunchtime, so I don't want to go too much in detail. So if we click on roles, if you had any row level security, it would be showing here. And our shared expressions show us how the data is being pulled in, and it shows us our M code here. You can change the M code if you enable preview features within Tabular Editor. And I think this will be part of the normal features fairly shortly. One of the things I particularly like is, whilst it's great to see the tables here, I like to have the data previewed. So you can right click and you can click on preview data. And you see you've got this tab now of the data in my fact table. And you would be able to pull that out and put it onto a different screen if you wanted to put it on a different screen so that you can actually see your tables. And you can have, you know, you can pull out as many as you like. So you right click and click preview data and the data's here. So one of the things that I'm always doing is I'm creating a measure to count the rows in my table. So to create a measure, you right click and you click create and you click measure, or you can use Alt1. And you can see we've got a new measure here. So I'm just going to type over it and type number of rows. And every object within the tabular object model has a properties pane that actually is based upon whatever you're clicking on. Sorry. So now I'm going to do, and you can see how the DAX editor is coming up here to show. So we click on summarized activities. Yeah, someone's saying about you can do it within external tools within the desktop, but I find that Tabular Editor is updating quite a lot, so I tend to prefer to have it on my ribbon. But you know, both ways work depending what you want to do. So you can see as you've collected a measure here, and I've got a measure called count rows, summarized activities. Now I've got 423 rows in my table, and I would want to check this. Because I've created this measure here, you can see it's made structural changes to the model metadata, which hasn't yet been synchronized to the Power BI report. So if we look at our Power BI report and we look at our summarized activities, let's just look at our table, you can see there's no measures there. When I click on here, and what I'm going to do is save the changes back to the currently connected database. So once I save it, you'll see that that little warning sign's gone. And when we click back here onto our summarized activities, you'll see that sometimes you just have to do that for it to come up. You'll see that the number of rows should have come up in my report. So here, hashtag rows should come up, summarized activities, and I've saved it back. There it is. Just took a second to come up. So that's the number of rows. But I want to check that it's right. And it's got this lovely little thing called a pivot grid. So if I click on the pivot grid, I can pull the number of rows in there. And so I can check straight away that the measure that I'm writing actually matches the data that I've got. And so what I might want to actually find is I might want to find all of the data regarding running. So activity type equals running. So I know there should be 217. So I'm going to create, so if I right click and I create another measure, and I can call it running, and my running, again, I click on my expression editor, and you can have these all over your screens however you want them, and you can see calculating's coming up. And as I do the square brackets, it shows me which ones I can use. And I don't know about you, but quite often I then forget I forget the name, but I can see I've got activity type there. So summaries activities, and then I can click on activity type, and it's helping me all the time use tab, and it enters it for me, and I can see it's running without any capitals. And it's helping me write my DAX, so I can then click save. And then when I go back to my pivot grid, I can pull my data in for my pivot grid, and I can check that it's working okay. And what you can do, it's as Jude just mentioned, although I'm showing you by pressing save here and saving it back to the database, actually I wouldn't do that. I would create many of my measures in lots of, I might create 20 or 30 and then push it back to the database, because it's a lot quicker to actually do that. And what you can do as well is you can then highlight. So I'm using Shift, and again, you can highlight as many as you like. And there's also this little thing called object type up here, where if you click on measure and press OK, it filters the whole of your tabular object model to show you only the measures. So that makes it a lot easier to work on as well. So I've highlighted those two, and you can see I've got the format string. So if I wanted to create these as currency, for example, which I won't do, but just to show you, it changes both of them to currency, so that you can change many of your measures, and you can format, and you can do lots of things very, very easily. So we can change it back to a whole number. Sorry.
One of the things I really enjoy about Tabular Editor is that I can take a group of measures and I can put them in the same folder all in one shot.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to show you're reading my mind, but yeah. So what you can do then is you can create a display folder. So we can just call this measures. And then once you've got that folder, you can drag and drop, and you can put as many measures in there for actually summarizing and creating them all. But what we can also do, so if we save that back to our report, you'll see that this then straight away we've got our table there, and we've got our measures in it. So it's a really nice, quick, simple way. But I'm just going to delete that, and we can delete it. So we can delete, and we can use Control Z to go back. And if we want it, we can then select all. So we can have all of our reports back together. This is also really useful. This little button here where you can collapse all. So that just enables you just to quickly put things together. So
Sue?
yes, yep. And delete measures, yeah.
So one of the things that I find kind of annoying is when you inherit someone else's Power BI report and they haven't gotten rid of some of the summarizations, the default.
Oh, yes.
Got any tips on that?
You a tip for that one. I've got you a tip. I've got you there, Tim. So here, exactly as Tim said, there are some things that you want to do repetitively. So one of those things is counting rows for every table. One of those things is changing every long date into a short date. One of those things is then actually making sure that all of your summarized columns you can change to non-summarize if they're numeric, if you don't want them to be. So let me show you and introduce you to a little bit of C# scripting. Quick note, if you've never used it before, there are two languages that you can use in Tabular Editor. You can use DAX and you can use C#. So that was one of the things when I first started using Power BI. I didn't understand between M and I didn't understand between DAX. So I would try to put M code into DAX and vice versa right at the very beginning. And it's the same within Tabular Editor. So we have here DAX scripting and we also have C# scripting. Now, let me show you an example of how to get started with C# scripting. C#, if you're not a programmer, it can be a bit daunting because you think, well, what exactly is C# scripting? But if you have a look on the Tabular Editor repository, and also I've got quite a few repositories that I can share with you. They show you how to create measures for columns. So one of the measures for the columns I've got is count rows. So I particularly like this one, where let me just copy it, and I've got these for you, but you can copy them from the web as well. So in the C# script, I just copy this script in. And what this script does is it will auto-generate count rows for all tables. So it loops through each table and it creates a rows in count rows and then sets the format string. So if I click on these three and then I press play, you'll see rows in summarized activities, rows in sleep, and rows in marathon training, and it's just done. And the same way that we've got the C# scripting down here, I've got some more. So hide all columns on the many-sided join, set summarize to none. So this is the one you're referring to, Tim. And it's quite simple. It says for each, and it's var C in model.all columns. So it's basically saying for all columns in the model, make sure the summarize function is none. And it applies to our model. So we click there and we press play, and it will go through, and every single summarized column that I had within my model has now been changed to non-summarized, which is, it's so incredibly helpful. And then the other one you can find, so we've got all of you'll see lots and lots of, let me show you, lots and lots of measures for time intelligence. We've also got C# scripting for our dates. So this is something that drives me completely so frustrating.
Yeah, this tip you showed to me last time, I use all the time.
Which
That's
is
how
the short date one.
The short dates, the scripting, base measures. There's a lot of times of like sum this up, count this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, if I have to do this anymore, I'm going to go crazy. So it was fantastic. Great tip.
Yeah. So you can see here, these are all the ones that I've got. Format all columns to a short date. So what you can do is you can click text to search date. And then when you click on date, you can then see all of the dates that you have within within your model, and then highlight using control. And you can, mine are all short date because I've already done it, but I've probably got one in here to do it as long date. But you can then format all of them to actually then be short date. So it just changes them to be, and it just saves you so much time. And you can also, this is the other thing that I really like, is if you can put if you create a Power BI report and you publish your model to the service, which is what you want to do, and have your one semantic model that then feeds many different reports, meeting different people's needs with one set of valid data, you can't see the measures. However, if you put the DAX comment into the measure field, then when you hover over it, it will actually show you the DAX script. So it enables your users to see how that measure was created. So, and it's really simple. So it just says for each model in each measure in the model, pull out the expression, put a couple of comments in there, and put them in. So here, and it goes through, and if there are any in there, it ignores it, and if there isn't, then it will put them in for you. These tips are here. So there is a whole GitHub repository called Power BI Tips, and there are basic ones like how to auto-generate sum measure, how to create selected measures, how to, yes, and you can use the Copilot to actually describe your measures all in one go. I think that was written by Darren, who's created DAX Studio, Darren Gosbell, who's created DAX Studio. He's done a piece of code that actually contacts ChatGPT or Copilot, and it actually describes the measure and then pops it into the measure description. So it gives an English description. So it's got all of these different metrics that you can add in as scripting into your model, which is really cool. And it just, Darren Gosbell, thank you, Henrik, which just saves you so much time. It's incredible. And as you said, once you've learned how to do it, then you can apply it to all of them. So that was our, yes, please. Yep.
You know, sometimes I get really concerned about deleting a measure, or depending on what other measures might be using it, or maybe I had a temp table in there. Do you have any suggestions for that?
You are fab, Tim. This is one I'm going to show you early to show you. So let's get rid of the thing to remember here is let's click on a measure and show a measure. So let me show you and create a measure for you. So I'm just making it shorter. I'm going to create a summarized activity measure. You can see I've got date there, so I don't want my date. That's one thing you need to be careful of. If you've put filters on, just make sure that you take them off. So on here, I'm going to use a macro to create time intelligence. So if I click on time intelligence, it will then iterate through and save, and I should then have in my time intelligence, then look at this. See, these are all the time intelligence measures that have been created within seconds. What you can then do is, say, if we look at this year over year to date, every single thing within the tabular model will show you the dependencies. So if I click on show dependencies here, it comes over here. So let's just put it here and drag it across. So I'm used to having it on a different screen. And so this is our year over year to date. Objects that depend on this, nothing depends on this. Objects on which this depends. So this shows me which objects are dependent upon here. So as you open it up, you can start to see which objects are useful and which objects are the measures depend upon, which then enables you to see, can you delete them or not? What impact does it have if you delete them? And actually, I think this is where I get in trouble. No, I won't do it. I was going to go off script, so I won't do, because I do that and then I get myself in trouble. So what you're able to do is you're able to see.
Were you going to show the call dependency? Were you going to export it to JSON?
Yeah, but we're not going to do that today. We'll just keep it nice and simple.
Okay.
So I'll do it and I'll video it for you, Tim.
Okay.
So you can see how things are dependent, and even on the tables you can have a look and you can say show the dependencies, and it will show you the dependencies for the tables and objects on which this depends and relationships that are starting from this table. So it enables you to basically see every single thing within your tabular object model that allows you to see how they relate to each other, because it's all just metadata surrounding the report. So you can see what it depends on. You can see basically the whole structure of your report. Filter format, folders, pivot grid, macros, DAX queries. Yeah, it is really useful for killing pointless measures. The other thing I want to show you is I want to show you about DAX scripting. So on here, so we've got all of these measures. So what we can do is we could filter and we could show our measure, and then we press OK. And then if we highlight all of these, perhaps we might want to do some documentation. We can actually script the DAX. So on here, we've now got our DAX scripting. So I've pulled it out, and I would do this. I would put it on another window. No, Henrique, it doesn't know if it's used in the report visuals at the moment. So when we pull this in, you can see that you have your measure, and it gives you all of your measure, what it is, what the description is, what the format string is, and you can try and find. So we can do a find and replace. I've pressed Control H, so we can script out all of our DAX. We can see it as text, and we could then find, perhaps we were moving it from, we have base measures that we might use in one report, and we find that the calendar table is called date, or it's called dates, or something like that. So this is a way that we can actually find and replace and change and edit our DAX and then synchronize it back. So here, perhaps if we had something that was called date and we wanted to replace it with dates, it would look through and it would find and replace all of the ones that we want it to be able to do. You just need to be aware of what you're doing. You can then, once you've done it, you can decide, do I want to apply and sync it back to the models, or do I want to choose a selection and sync it back, or do I want to apply the selection? So you've got different options that you can do when you use the DAX scripting. And let me just stop doing that. And there is a really useful, let me find it for you. There's a really nice, if I can get rid of this. Where do we get rid of this? Hide. So I've shown you this one, create measures, Tabular Editor scripting. There's a lovely, here we go. So in Docs Tabular Editor, DAX script, what they do is they show you how to build your own measures. So if you want to, so you can actually use it to edit and script your DAX measures, or you can create your own measures by using this particular format. And so there's examples how to create a measure, how to create a measure with a KPI, and then also how you can start to create calculation groups using DAX scripting. So there's lots of particular code that you can use to actually I'll have a look at that in a minute, Charles. I'll have a look at that question. So there's lots of particular items that you can use to improve your DAX. The other thing that I want to do is, yes, you can do it time intelligence in Greg's way. Yes, and Brian Julius without the calculate, no calculate. Yep. So last thing I want to show you is I told you how it can improve your best practice. So let me just get rid of this one. And let's get rid of this pivot grid at the moment. I might even show you Vertipack if we have time. So there is this thing called Best Practice Analyzer, and Best Practice Analyzer looks at your whole model because it can see all of your relationships, it can see your formatting, it can see every single thing about your particular report and the metadata, and it can give you suggestions on what's the best practice. And this is here with the best practice is here, and it comes from, it's basically used from Microsoft. It's Microsoft's GitHub, and you can see it's got the best practice analyzer there, and this is the GitHub. And when you can create your own if you want to create your own, and this works in Tabular Editor 2 and Tabular Editor 3. So when we click at best practice, if we click here, it will show us manage the best practice rules. So you can set up your own rules, and within the text you can see some of the URLs I've given you. It'll show you how to do that. But it's really, really simple. You can add best practice rules in from a URL. So you can click add from a URL. So you click include rule file from a URL. Then, and I've given you the link, then the URL is here. You put this URL in here, and this is from Microsoft, and this is their best practice rules. So it's things like avoid bi-directional relationships against high cardinality columns. Don't use long length columns with high cardinality because it's, you know, it may affect the performance. So you add this to your Tabular Editor report, and then it runs, and it runs against your model. So you can see this report has got 134 best practice. So if I look at it, there's different levels of severity. So on here, if I click, I've got percentages should be formatted with 1,000 separators, and see the way we can just change the, so we could actually just pull it out if we wanted to. So it'll give us that should be formatted with like this. So there's this little apply fix if, yeah, I've left it 134 issues in there deliberately. So if you press the screwdriver, if it can fix it for you, it will fix it for you. If it can't, so this one, if it can't fix it, it'll say, right, ignore or go and have a look. So formatting, whole numbers should be formatted with 1,000 separators and no decimals. So I'll say, yep, fix that, I agree with that. And you can start seeing how the actual numbers go down. So we're down to 118. Remove unnecessary columns. So these are columns that are in my report that I don't necessarily need. And so you can apply the fix, or you might think, well, actually, you know, I want you to ignore that because they might not be in there yet, but I am going to use them. So thank you, but no thank you. So you can start saying these objects have got no description. So these would be the ones we would want to run our macro. And I don't know if we can do it here. Let's just see, shall we? Can I run a macro? No, it won't let me run a macro. But what we can do is we can then go through our model and pick these and then tell them. So if we go to our Tom Explorer, these are our measures, and then we can actually run a macro, and then we can say, right, okay, put the description in there. So we could say, it's not coming up yet, but it will do. It'll come up, and we could then say, right, okay, actually, DAX comment, put those into. That's why. So it didn't come up because it should be on our model. So if we click on our model, this DAX comment is based on our model, not our macro. So if I right click on my macro, you can see all of these things will run on my model as opposed to my actual measure. So it will run through now and put them into, so if we click over it, you'll see in the description, it's got the description in there. So now, if I had a thin report, this would show up with the actual DAX measure in it. So if we go back to our best practice, and oh look, down to 90. So it can be quite therapeutic to go through and actually reduce the number of issues that there are. So like something like this, performance set is available in MDX to raise on non-attribute columns. So that basically is for using in Excel. So we can say, well, no, it's not going to be used in Excel and it's not going to be non-attribute. So we can reduce that. Do not use floating data points. No, I don't want to use floating data points. So I'm down to 64. So you can go through and you can actually use the best practice analyzer to improve your model, to enable you to actually make it run smoother and quicker. So what we've covered so far is I've shown you how you can actually use your window, and you can set your window out for different things that you can do, whether you're going to use it for creating DAX. We've looked a little bit at the expression editor and the properties. I don't think I explained the properties very well. So down here, we've got our properties pane, and every single, if we go to our Tom Explorer, every single thing that we have has got a properties button on it, so you can see if there was any translations, what data category it was, if there are any descriptions. Once you look at the Tom Explorer, you can then see what the properties are. So if we look at rows in sleep, we can see if it's formatted, if it's hidden, any metadata, what the detail rows expression is, the lineage, anything like that is all within the properties. And let me just go back. I just want to make sure I cover everything. So we've got the properties, show dependencies. We've looked at find and replace, and that is within everything in your model. You can look and use Control H, and you come up and you can find and replace anything because it's all part of the metadata. And you can filter. So this filtering is really useful. I use this quite a lot to try and work out different things that I'm working on, so that it can actually enable you to see what you're looking at, and this button as well, just to make things a lot easier on your eyes. And filter, formatting, folders, pivot grid, macros, DAX queries, and best practice analyzer. I think that's most things that we've covered of my favorite features. And so that's Tabular Editor. I think I've shown you what it is, and you can then see how much it will cost and who uses it. So for Tabular Editor 2, it will cost nothing. For Tabular Editor 3, it's $10 a month for your basic desktop license. And I tend to think if it will save me half an hour a month, then it's paid for itself. Who uses it? So we've looked at the different people that use it. For me personally, as a developer, I use it as against local reports. Why would you use it? Because it just saves you time, and you can start. Tabular Editor 2, just to give you a little look, looks a little bit like this. So you can do most of the basic functionality with Tabular Editor 2. And if you click on it, it's the same. You can pull up a report. You pull up your tables, so you've got your different tables there, you've got your relationships there. You haven't got the same DAX scripting that you have in Tabular Editor 3, but it's still perfectly functional. Create a new measure. So you can create a new measure in here, call it TE2, enter it. So you haven't got the same IntelliSense that you have within Tabular Editor 3, but it's absolutely functional. And then you've got your C# scripting, so you can create your own measures in here. So you can pull your C# scripting in here. And if I can remember my C# scripting output, I'll probably get it wrong, like that, and run. And then, quite pleased with that. And it will show you the output of the particular object you've got in. So it's absolutely gives you many, good question. It gives you many different functionality. Yes, you can do search and replace, Jude, and there is a particular script that you use for it. I will find it whilst we're chatting and pop it in, but you use it using C# scripting, and I think it was in Michael's. I will find it for you. I have it and I will find it for you, but you can use, and you can show the metadata, you can show the data, Henrique, by using C# scripting. So I will find that for you as well. So the way to think about it is, yes, you can't see the data easily in Tabular Editor 2, whereas you can in Tabular Editor 3, but I have got the code and I will show you the code to do the finding and seeing the data as well. So I'll do that in a moment. So any questions, because I'm conscious you've got 9 minutes before the end of the hour and it's lunchtime and people might want a cup of tea or coffee. And there is that's who I am, so feel free to connect with me. That's my GitHub, which has got the presentation in it. And if you are interested in Tabular Editor, they've got a free learning course that you can just do if you're interested in it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's designed by Kurt, who's now working for SQL BI. And he's a genius with the actual training, and he's also really funny as well. So some of the language that he uses, not only is it very good and technically brilliant, but it's also quite humorous, which I find is always useful. Anyway, I will stop and any questions, and I'll leave that on there for the moment. Yeah, the quizzes are brilliant, aren't they? He's so funny, Charles, isn't he? He really does make me giggle. There's one bit in there and he says, well, you know, you can do this with it. And when I know how to do it, I'll put it in there and show you. So yeah, he is quite funny. Yeah. So any questions? Did I miss anything in the chat?
Now's your chance, everyone. You got a Tabular Editor.
Hey, Jude. Yeah, Jude's
expert.
here too. You got some Brits over here and Europeans. If it collapsed repetitive measure syndrome into calculation groups, I bet it probably could actually, Jude. But the team are really friendly. So if you have got any questions and I haven't answered anything and you're thinking, what if, then if you reach out to them, Daniel Ottiker, who is the technical author, the creator of Tabular Editor, is really passionate. And quite often I've put things on their site to say, can you do this? And he'll send me, go, what, like this, Sue? And then so they'll show you. And David, who's also one of the technical, I always get the titles wrong, so technical author as well, or technical editor, technical architect. He's, you know, they're really helpful. They're all very passionate about the tool and giving the best experience possible. Let me just see if I can find my search for you whilst you chat. Oh, thank you, Gedo. Have I pronounced it correctly? And Charles, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. 1,000 measure monster. Ooh.
Oof.
Yeah. I'll stop sharing.
I would think about splitting that out.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
I actually came across a client that actually had a Power BI that took like 45 seconds to load the visual.
45.
And I was like, you're kidding me. Like, there's no direct query in this. What is going on? So they had like 70 objects in one visual. And on top of it, their call tree of measures was like 22 deep.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay, you win
22 deep.
22.
Why?
That's exactly what I was wondering.
Why are you doing this? Yeah.
So I opened up Tabular Editor, right-clicked on the measure, said, give me the JSON output of it. And I said, here's your call tree on just a couple of your main measures. So and then the lead who contacted me was like, looks like we have some things to work on. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and like Jude's saying, the thing, performance analyzer. Can I just show, if anyone who's still there, if anyone's interested, let me just show how you can show the table in, oh, I'm going to have to script it now, hang on. So this is how you can show the table. So hang on, and I think it was David. So you're going to say var table name equals selected table name.
Sue, are you sharing something?
Oh yeah, that would be useful. So this is what happens, Tim, when I go off the cuff. And here, so I've probably got it wrong, but you can see here how you can write that as your DAX, your C# script within Tabular Editor. So let me just stop sharing that one and share this screen. Oh, sorry, wrong one again, because I've got you all on here. So here, so we're going to var table name. So you actually create a C# script for that, and then so basically what you can do within, you can write DAX within C#. Me just save me copying it out. You can actually use DAX within C# to, and then result.output. So if we now, let's see if this works, click on that. Look at that.
Wow.
So nice, nice.
That's impressive.
So, but think about it. I sound like Marco. Think about it. So think about it. What you can do is you can write DAX within C# to show you anything. So you can pull up your data from TE2 like you can in TE3. Now, I would like to say that that I came up with this, but I didn't. I sat down with David, who's the technical one of the programmers at Tabular Editor, because I did a session on Tabular Editor 2 at SQL Bits, and I said to him, I can't get my tables out. I like to see my tables out, and he went, "Ooh, let me think about it." And then he went, "Actually," and I think it was something Michael did. And then the other thing, like you said about the filtering, Jude, if you're still there, look at this. So when you click on the filter, yeah, close that a minute. So when you click on the filter here, you can say, right, object equals column, and so we can use regex, and regex equals is match name date, and then click on filter. Look at that. So it's saying, show me that they're a column. So it shows me only the columns here, and then it shows anything that is matched with the name date in it.
Very cool.
So I was quite impressed with that. So DAX and regex within Tabular Editor 2. So if you stayed for right up to the end, you got some extra. That is nice. It's a game changer. I was quite pleased with that. Any questions from anyone, or is that okay?
Yeah, we're at the hour now.
You're at the hour.
One last question in, anybody? If not, Sue, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to show us Tabular Editor. You know, it just helps solidify, you know, how great of a tool it is, and
it's
all the
fab,
different
isn't it?
functions.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy it. I like playing with it. And thank you, everyone. Oh, hi, David. Oh, I've got some. So we have within the UK, well, within the user group, I have there's a group of us that meet regularly. So there's quite a few of them in the chat, which is really lovely. So we share. We're all obsessed